Now, the Ireland under-20s drew 34-all with England over the weekend in the opening game of the World Under-20 Championships in South Africa. Alan Quinlan watches and is joining us now to talk to us about this. In a rip-roaring tie that ends 34-all, Ireland felt a little bit fortunate at the end. Were the man sent off towards the end to get away with the draw, or were they sad that the game didn't go on a bit longer to try and give themselves a chance to win?
Well, I think in the end, Jared, they were probably pleased that the whistle went and they got a draw. I think if they lost that game, the reality and the chances of making the semis would probably be way more difficult. I think there's 3 groups of 4, and the top 3 from each pool go automatically into the semi-finals, and then the next best qualifier. And historically, I think we've seen from the tournament before that even if you lose a game, winning 2 games doesn't usually put you in the semi-final. So if Ireland lost that game, I think it would have made it very difficult for them to get to the semis. Look, it's a tricky competition, a tricky tournament anyway, with the games coming so quickly. I think when they analyse the game and they look back, they'll be disappointed, particularly in the mid part of that second half. On about 64 or 5 minutes, they ended up going 10 points up, and after being 9 points down just after half time, when England really responded. So it was a kind of a crazy game. It was 15-10 to Ireland at half time, and a lot of mistakes. It was frantic stuff non-stop, and I think at that point you were thinking in 65 minutes Ireland are in a great position here, and England responded. They got a penalty, then a converted try and levelled the match, and Ireland had 1 or 2 more opportunities, but they'll be probably disappointed with the mistakes. They were certainly the effort level of the players and the desire and drive and all that kind of stuff, and they showed some great qualities at times, but certainly made some mistakes which they'll be disappointed with. So probably in the end, I think, relieved after U20 was sent off towards the end and England were putting pressure on them close to their line. I think they'll be relieved to get a draw. And I think, as I said, if they'd gone off the field and England had scored there, the chances of getting to the semi-finals would be really difficult. It's still a tough situation. They play Australia and on Thursday, and then Fiji next Tuesday. So it's still all to play for. They got 3 points out of the game, 2 bonus points and a point for the draw as well. So they ended up getting 3 points in the end, which was probably relief in the end.
England flawless off the tee, Quinny, and from an Irish perspective, Sam Predergast, who's usually so reliable, has a mini period where he misses, I think it's 4 in a row, and just it's those little things that can make such a huge difference in a game like that. So that was surprising in the fact that Predergast is usually so reliable.
Yeah, and the English 10, as you say, Conor Slevin, he didn't miss any. His kicking was superb from the touchline as well for a couple of their tries. Yeah, it's hard to explain. There were 4 easy kicks he missed. Not like 2 of them were very, very kickable, and you'd expect him no problems to slot him. The other 2 were a little bit more difficult, but still, probably the trajectory of both those kicks wasn't good. And yeah, I think he'd be very disappointed with striking the ball off the ground. And I think at 10-3, Shane, after scoring 2 tries, it should have been 14-3. So, it did come down to probably a couple of missed kicks in the end from those conversions that normally Sam Prendergast would get. If you go back to, the Six Nations, he got a couple of vital kicks for Ireland in those matches. He kicked the winning penalty for Leinster against the Lions in April. He didn't have the kicking boots on, and that was an unfortunate part of that. But I think not alone, and it probably was just it wasn't Sam Prendergast. I think Fintan Gunn as well. Their game management and their kicking strategy made it difficult for themselves at times. So they're the kind of things they look back on, and uncharacteristic missed kicks, I think, which were proved to be costly in the end.
Was the red card deserved?
Yeah, initially when we saw it in real time, it's part of me thought that the English player had stuck his elbow out and hit U Cooney, but when you see it on the replay, he shoots up really hard in a very upright position, and there's head on head, and it's pretty clear that that it was a red card. We saw one in the Super Rugby final between the Chiefs and the Crusaders that was just a yellow card, and it was worse. It was head on head as well. The referee had no hesitation when he looked and went to the TMO and looked at it on the big screen that it was a red card. So he got himself concussed as well, U Cooney, and took a heavy knock and then got a red card. So he'll be a loss now. He'll miss the Australian game, and it was. You couldn't argue and say that it wasn't. There's a duty of care, obviously, and that's been happening for in recent times about the tackle player, and it's very well highlighted that you've got to go lower. So he was very upright, and it was a red card. Yes.
The one in Super Rugby is a little bit concerning, right? Because it's so high profile. Is there any sense that we're about to enter into a period of uncertainty where referees decide not to, in inverted commas, ruin games when it comes to the World Cup?
Well, the bunker situation that was in for the 20s there, where that was happening in Super Rugby, where if a referee is unsure, if it's kind of between that yellow and red situation, Ger, where they're not sure, and the pressure is off them a little bit more now, where they can give a yellow card and it's reviewed by the TMO. There's a 10-minute situation, it can be upgraded to a red. Between the Chiefs and the Crusaders, the yellow was given by the referee and it was to be reviewed, and then it was reviewed and deemed just a yellow. I thought that's crazy, and it probably just shows the Southern Hemisphere, their view on this is still a little bit skewed. A lot of the talk in the last number of years was the game has been ruined by red cards, and the game has gone soft, all that kind of stuff. We've heard some of those comments, and totally conflicting opinions from ex-players and the media from in the Northern Hemisphere to the Southern Hemisphere, if you know what I mean. And so I was just very surprised with that one, that it wasn't upgraded to a red, particularly when you see the 20s and you see the similar kind of incident, straight away a red card, no complaints from anyone watching it, because as the tackle player you've got to be more careful and go lower. So that would be concerning, yes. It's obviously more high profile, the World Cup, but this, there's a lot of viewers and a lot of people watching Super Rugby final as well, and probably people scratching their heads saying why it wasn't upgraded to a red.
Is discipline a concern going forward, Quinny? Because aside from the red, of course, for Cooney, you've got the sin bin for Mangan as well, and that third quarter seemed to be the kind of the turning point and the ebb and flow back in England's direction for a period at least.
I don't think discipline is a problem. I think Dermot Mangan's one was kind of a chance in your arm scenario, really, that I've probably been in that position myself a few times, where you're under pressure. England are putting the squeeze on Ireland. They're after getting over the gain line. They're close to the Ireland line, and he's trying to scramble around to get a turnover, goes off his feet, and that's temptation to kind of bring the ball with you as you're falling, be cleaned out as well. Obviously, from a referee's point of view and an attacking point of view, you don't get the benefit of the doubt to those ones. If he stays on his feet another little bit, maybe he'll get the penalty. But no, I don't think so. I think they're a brilliant side, Shane. I think there was moments in the game where I was just watching it and going, these guys are really tenacious, resilient, collectively very, very good. Their attack is, they're always on the go, trying to create space and move the ball. And Richie Murphy's done a great job with them. I think if you surmise the performance, you'd probably look back and say they lacked a little bit of control and game management at times, and probably should have played a little bit of cup rugby, if you like. But it's kind of in their DNA, the way they attack. If you look at the Six Nations, in winning the Grand Slam, they scored the most points of any team that have ever won it. but they've also conceded the most points of any team that's ever won it. So that would indicate they just need to be a bit better in defence and a bit more controlled. And some of the pressure they had from England on Saturday was kind of self-inflicted. Poor clearances, running the ball when they probably should have kicked the ball. Just being a little bit of shrewd and managing the scoreboard, so building pressure and just turning the opposition. But look, credit to England. England were very, very powerful, and they had some kind of really big ball carriers who punished Ireland at times. But if you look back at it, I thought it was a game Ireland should have won if they were a bit shrewder.
All right, Quinny, we'll leave it there. Thanks a million. Cheers.
Cheers, lads.
More from Quinny later on in the week. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on the rest of that tournament. Australia on Thursday, and then Fiji after that, if they want to make the top